We have been experimenting with social media this month. The month of June was supposed to be our social media experimentation project at Cheesetique. And I thought, oh, I've just heard about this issue where this one, not so common French cheese is being held up in port by the FDA in New Jersey. And my customers tend to be fairly, passionate food people involved. And I thought, hey, this would be a really cool thing to experiment with on Facebook. And so sort of on a whim and as a joke, we said, hey, come to our Facebook page, post a photo of yourself frowning, and you'll get a free piece of Mimolette cheese because it's about to be gone, essentially, from the United States. And it just exploded into this, for us, a huge response.
So why is the federal government holding Mimolette hostage?
We don't actually know for sure. It's very difficult to get the exact information and the exact reason. The information that we have so far is that there are too many cheese mites, which are microscopic little critters that live on the rinds of cheeses, and they have exceeded some sort of acceptable threshold.
And there are health risks associated with these mites, right?
There are potential minor allergic reactions associated with the cheese mites on the rinds. So, yes.
All right.
Ish.
But we're talking about densities of mites that are taken care of by the time they hit the shelves.
Exactly. So cheese mites that do exist on the rinds of cheeses, which are a natural part of cheese making, and in some cases actually a desirable sort of presence on the rinds of cheeses. They help develop flavor and help develop the rind and aerate the rind and keep it healthy. So this is something that for hundreds and thousands of years, as long as cheeses have really been made, cheese mites have been part of the process. But by the time the cheese reaches your retailer and the time you go to look in a cheese case at the cheese, it has been cleaned and brushed and things, so you're not getting large colonies of cheese mites.
How long have these kinds of cheeses, the ones that typically have mites on the rind, been imported into the United States?
The cheeses have been made for hundreds of years, and this one particular cheese, Mimolette, has been imported for decades.
Now, you say that the FDA is not being particularly clear about why this is being held. What do producers of this cheese have to say about it?
They are very disturbed, needless to say. You're talking about the livelihoods of a lot of folks, the cheese makers, the importers, the distributors. For us, this is just a cheese that we happen to carry, but for them, this is a really big deal, and it's something that they weren't able to anticipate. So what you have is literally thousands of pounds of this cheese sitting on a dock in New Jersey, just hanging out with no foreseeable end in sight.
Now, this is not an issue limited to Mimolette. There are many varieties of cheese where these mites are either a nuisance or actually desirable.
Correct.
What happens next?
This is what, in my opinion, is the scary issue. It started as something silly. Again, it started as an experiment and a social media thing. The more I'm researching it and the more I'm talking to people who have a lot more information about it even than I do, this just could be the beginning of a very dangerous trend, because there are a lot of much more famous cheeses that have a similar mite situation on the rinds and have for hundreds of years. But Mimolette is a cheese that's not so well known, but some of these other cheeses are extraordinarily famous and would be very, very missed if they were pulled from the market.
And these cheeses are produced in the United States. Some of them are produced in the United States.
Absolutely. And this is another area of concern. It's not only what additional cheeses from other countries might fall into this problem, but it's also American cheeses. Cheese mites are not sort of only foreign creatures. They also live here in the United States, and they also live on our cheeses. So we may start with some of the foreign cheeses, but then before you know it, American cheeses could also be affected.
Now, you are no stranger to cheese-related federal controversy. When George W. Bush was leaving office, he imposed a 300% tariff on Roquefort, which was, I think, in response to persistent sales following a previous tariff on French Roquefort. Is there anything special about cheese here that makes the feds want to intervene?
It's easy to jump on it because I think in America especially, we tend to be afraid of things that are not hyper hygienic and hyper sanitary. And I think it's very easy to spin cheese as something that is dirty and tainted. Oh, it has bugs on the rind. It has mold that lives there. It has bacteria still living within it. All of these things to the American people especially, cause a very sort of visceral reaction. And I think that's why there tends to be a lot of attention drawn to it. The wonderful thing about cheese, however, is that people really love it, right? Like I have built an entire business on cheese, go figure. So people love it and they are responding really strongly. If you mess with people's food, they don't like that. They like to be able to make their own choices. And this is a really clear, easy to identify issue for a lot of people.